Welcome to Poland Daily History with me, Nicholas Richardson. In the previous episode, we started to discuss the life of the Primate of Poland during the Second World War, Cardinal August Hlond. Ordained in 1905, he moved to Vienna in 1909 and didn't return to Poland until early 1920. He then quickly rose through the ranks of the clergy and soon became the highest-ranking member of the clergy in Poland.
A couple of years later, he became bishop and then replaced the previous primate of Poland, who was retiring as the new primate of Poland in 1926. After that, he spent the 1930s fighting a personal crusade against what he called the problem and plague of escapism. The 1930s was naturally a very difficult period across the world. You had the financial crisis that had ruined the lives of many. You had some first steps of modernity after the Roaring Twenties that the church was struggling to adapt with and how to handle. And then, of course, in Europe, you had the rise of authoritarian systems, fascism in Italy, German Nazism in Germany, and general ethnic tensions and this feeling that things were moving towards war. And of course, that war did break out in 1939. Cardinal Hlond was evacuated on September 18th, together with the Polish authorities, to Romania. From there, he went to Italy, but he remained in close contact with the Polish clergy, and he received a lot of reports of what was happening to Poles in general, but the Polish clergy in specific, in particular. It's worth mentioning that the Roman Catholic Church in Poland was persecuted across the board, but it was worse in certain places. The most difficult situation was in those territories of Western Poland that were directly annexed to the Third Reich, in the so-called General Gouvernement around here, Warsaw and Central Poland. Conditions were also very difficult, but as the Germans had been dead set on completely integrating these areas in the West that they had taken over, the Catholic Church was viewed as a direct opponent that was putting barriers in place for this project. Percentually, it was often in some areas that 30, 40, or even 50% of all pre-war priests were executed and taken to concentration camps or just publicly executed before then. These reports were sent from Cardinal Hlond to the Western Allies. Later, some of that material would be used against the Germans in the Nuremberg trials as well. He decided in 1940 in March to travel on a pilgrimage to France, to the famous holy site of Lourdes. And there, unfortunately, he decided to remain for a few weeks longer. And of course, then, unfortunately, the Germans invaded. Being in Vichy, France, initially he felt that he was quite safe and that he didn't need to flee anywhere. But in 1944, in February, he was arrested on the personal orders of Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS. And as later on in the year, Operation Overlord started in the summer, and the American and British troops started coming closer and closer, the Germans decided to move him back to Germany, where he was kept in a camp. He was released by the Americans in 1945, taken on a plane first on to Paris, later back to Rome, where he started delivering more reports to the Pope on what had really taken place during the war. But soon after that, he was sent back to Poland. And here he was faced with another difficult situation, as the communists had taken control, the Soviet communists had taken control of the country a little more than a year earlier, and were starting their new wave of repression against the church. He released some pastoral letters in which he tried to warn the Polish population about what was happening with the communists, and he complained about the freedoms that were being taken away from Poles. a lot of these pastoral letters were censored, but some of them were still read up in churches and masses across Poland. So the message was sent out, even though the conditions were difficult.
Adam, I'm just going to have to stop you there. The clock has defeated us, but we'll be back to discuss this. There we are. I've had to stop Adam almost in mid-sentence, defeated by the clock as usual, but we'll be back next time to continue the story. So do join us then, again, on Poland Daily History. Thank you for watching.